Find the answers to questions you may or may not have asked yourself here at Science, Conversations on Cognitive Science, hosted by Elisa Palmer and Sönke Löw. We were at a special event, which was the Coxie Space Day. There we had the chance to talk to a great variety of different people and talk about their fields of interest, may they be students or professors. We talked about various aspects of cognitive science, such as neuroscience, linguistics, philosophy, or artificial intelligence, and many more. All the interviews were kept rather short, and another exception of our bonus episodes will be that not only Sönke and me are hosting, but also our two amazing producers Alina and Sophie, and both will jump into this role of being an interviewer. So stay curious and tune in.
Hello and welcome. I would like to ask you to introduce yourself and what you do and what your topic of interest is.
Hi, first of all, thank you for inviting me. It's super nice to be here. My first experience to be a guest on the podcast in English, so I don't know, kind of nervous. My name is Viktoria. I'm doing PhD in the Osnabrück University in computational neuroscience. Yes.
Okay.
In neuroinformatics lab, if that is important.
That's nice. So I would like to ask you a first welcome question.
Sure.
And I would like to answer the question, as a kid, I always wanted to be.
Yeah, okay, that's a little bit tricky question because as a kid, I changed my mind so many times that I can't even count now, but I think I started with something very basic, very weird, like dreaming of being an actress or a model. That's what you get for growing up in a patriarchal country, I guess. But then I grew a little bit older. I think I somehow switched to wanting to be a detective or a lawyer sort of thing. I'm not sure. I guess that's how my interest in uncovering mysteries or solving puzzles sort of started. So I thought it would be really cool to solve some interesting problems, to find something, to solve a puzzle, as I said before. And then I also wanted to become a lawyer because another thing which I was interested in was, you can call it justice, I guess, or uncovering the truth or defending people. Yeah, I think I was thinking about defending people in the courts and all these sort of things. Yeah, so actually it's not like I never wanted to be a scientist. I never considered it. I never felt that it's like an option somehow, I guess because I'm not coming from an academic family and I didn't really have any scientists around to even think that such a thing exists in the world.
But I feel like with uncovering riddles, I feel like you're not that far off in science.
Yeah, true.
And so in the end, you ended up in science somehow. How would you explain your main field of research to me if I was a kid of maybe 10 years age?
Yeah, that's also a very good question indeed. I never tried to explain it to a 10-year-old kid, but I'll try to do it next time. The first time I have a chance. Okay, I guess now I will practice a little bit. So maybe we'll have to start with talking about the brain in general a little bit. So we as humans can do many sorts of wonderful things, like think or dream or feel emotions or like remember some cool things and bad things, also forget bad things. So this is also super interesting. And the brain is that thing that helps us to do it. And this is kind of really weird because brain consists of many, many cells, which we call neurons, and they interact with each other. They send electrical signals and respond to them. And this somehow transforms to this super complex behavior, to these feelings, emotions, thinking, logical reasoning, and all of sort of wonderful things. So how does this happen exactly? And there are different instruments that can help us measure these electrical signals that help neurons communicate. But they have the advantages and they also have many, many limitations, and it might be hard to use them and all sorts of things. But there is also another method. We can model the brain activity. We can try to model what this brain does, like creating computer simulations of this. And this is super interesting because it doesn't include any additional super complicated equipment and experiments, all sorts of things. And also, what is important, we don't only want to know how exactly these neurons communicate with each other, like from biological point of view, but we want to know what are the mechanisms, the core principles behind it, like maybe the algorithms, sort of. Yeah. And this is what we can uncover creating different models and seeing how they behave and what kind of things they can produce and how similar this is to the brain, how complex this can become. I'm not sure how clear this would be for 10 years old, but I tried my best.
I think it's clear. Did you always want to do something with neuroscience, or where did you start? How did you get to the projects you're working on right now?
Yeah, no. So as I said before, at first I didn't even think about science at all. I'm not sure I even knew that neuroscience existed as a field. Never probably heard such a word before I became a teenager or something. So as I said, at some time I wanted to become a lawyer and I wanted to defend people or stuff like that, or be a detective, whatsoever. But anyway, all of these things required learning history to apply to the right university. And when I started seriously considering it, it was already too late to start learning history because I didn't do it before. So I guess I just decided to choose from what I was already good at. So yeah, I think somehow how I ended up where I am right now was a little bit a chain of random events, but I guess this is true for many people. So my bachelor's degree was in computational linguistics. I did it because I was good in math, also in languages, not so bad. So, yeah, this just somehow worked, and I didn't really think about what I'm going to do as a computational linguist. I just thought, I guess that's going to work. I'm not sure. And I did a little bit of natural language processing. I worked in the industry for a while, for several years. But during my bachelor, so I was doing my bachelor and working at the same time. But then I don't know how exactly that happened, but somehow then I discovered that science exists, and it's also about solving mysteries and puzzles and all that sorts of things. And this is what I really needed and what I couldn't get out of working in the industry, or maybe just, depends on a specific place of work. But I have always been feeling this pressure that what I'm doing is not super meaningful, sort of, that I'm doing all the things that I'm doing just for the heads of the corporations to earn more money, and that's kind of the general purpose of it. And I wasn't okay with that. I wanted to do something more socially meaningful, if you can formulate it this way. Yeah, and that's so I decided I wanted to solve some cool mysteries of the world, I don't know. And I guess brain is just happened to be one of the biggest mysteries we have on the planet. So yeah, that's how I decided that I guess I can try to study brain then, and like linguistics and cognitive science are not far away from each other. So maybe I can just, somehow get there. Yeah. And my master's was in cognitive science. Then I worked in the industry for a little bit more just to make sure that I'm doing the right decision. Then I made sure and decided to pursue a PhD. Yeah, I think that is the whole story.
And you're mainly focusing on linguistics and brain, but also on machine learning in a way, right?
So I completely stopped doing anything related to linguistics now for no specific reason. It just happened, as many things in my life. Yeah, I think I just somehow got to know a cool professor who was doing computational neuroscience during my master's in cognitive science, and I got interested in the topic, and I figured, wow, actually, I have some good programming skills, so why don't I apply them to this sphere? Like, I can be really useful in this. I'm not a biologist, so I cannot really do some cool brain experimental science, so probably I will serve better in the computational sphere. Yeah, I tried, and it really worked. And that's why I decided to do my PhD in computational neuroscience as well. Yeah.
And when you think about the field you're working in, are there any really fascinating, late-breaking findings that came out that really surprised you?
Yeah, so this is a little bit complicated because so in computational neuroscience, I'm working with spiky networks. This is a specific type of networks, and they're different from the neural networks we normally hear about. Like, it's not this field where huge breakthroughs, which all people know about, happen, like transformers, or when convolutional neural networks happened or something. Like, now everyone is talking about ChatGPT or DALL-E, but no one is really talking about spiky networks. It's also because the field is not so huge, and maybe big companies do not invest that much money in this, and not many people are doing that. So I wouldn't say we as a field had a really as huge breakthroughs as some other fields, which I just named. Maybe I would just talk about some general topics which are quite popular and I think quite promising nowadays. So what I'm doing is purely software thing, like we're developing some algorithms, some mechanisms and trying them out, but there are also people who are creating hardware, specific hardware, which is good for this specific kind of models. And this is, I think, what is super important right now. I wouldn't say it's more important than software, but as I said, really meaningful, because if we come back to this regular artificial neural networks topic, I think one of the reasons they became so good, so popular, and so widely distributed, I'm not sure, widely used, is that there have been breakthroughs in hardware for them, in these GPUs, graphical processing units to run these neural networks. And they became a huge thing, and this made the progress, I guess, inevitable, and this made the progress happening in this field of neural networks. So I think if the thing of the same volume, of the same power happens in the field of spiking neural networks, computational modeling, then I guess we can also make our models better, much better, can develop them much better. So, this is a very, very long way to answer the question, but my answer would be that the most important things that are happening right now, the best breakthroughs, are mostly concerning the hardware development for them. And it's all different neuromorphic computers, neuromorphic chips, or I don't know, there are different cool kinds of stuff. Many physicists are working on that, not only neuroscientists. Like, for example, there exist photonic networks where the signal is transmitted with photons, and I think this is super interesting. This is not exactly my topic, but I think that's where the way for making spiking networks computational modeling great begins. Yeah. Yes.
Okay, we have one last question for you. Which scientist would you want to have a tea or coffee with, dead or alive?
Yeah, this is very tricky because I have to pick one, so I'm not sure. I guess I will stick to some scientist who is not alive right now, because if I name someone alive, then other alive scientists wouldn't be very pleased, I guess, if they got to, wouldn't be very happy to know that they're not the targets for having a tea with. So I guess, can I name two, actually?
Yeah, you can, sure.
Okay. Then I will take one from my home country. So I come from Russia, and if I'm thinking about Russian scientists, I would name Andrei Sakharov. I'm not sure. I guess I should tell a little bit. So he was a scientist who came up with a hydrogen bomb and developed a hydrogen bomb. But it's not like I'm super impressed by him developing a hydrogen bomb. It's more a sort of Oppenheimer-like journey that he had, that he developed such a mass weapon, and it was super destructive and dangerous, and he didn't realize that until it was too late. And the best thing about this story is that when he realized that, he started doing everything which was in his power to try to stop Soviet government from doing nuclear weapon testing and trying to fight for human rights in Soviet Union. So this was in the time of the Cold War. And this was, of course, extremely difficult, and he was considered a political dissident, and he was sent to exile to my home city, by the way, which is kind of funny. Yeah. But he never stopped doing what he was doing, and I think this is really admirable. So it would be really cool to have tea with him and talk about what it is like to do such huge things and to live with the consequences of your actions and try to make up with it.
Who would be your second scientist?
Yeah, and my second scientist would be a woman called Rita Levi-Montalcini. She was an Italian scientist, and she received a Nobel Prize. Actually, the Andrei Sakharov also received a Nobel Prize, but for peace, not for science that he did. And this lady received a Nobel Prize for the science that he was doing, which was, she discovered a nerve growth factor for nerve cells. And this was super important for developing different experimental treatments for cancer or for neurodegenerative diseases later, and all sorts of cool things. But another reason why I would like to have a chat with her was also due to her some social reasons, I guess, because she also had a super interesting life journey. She was doing science in 1940s, so at the time when Mussolini was a dictator in Italy, and it was super hard, and she came from a Jewish family. So at some point she was doing science, she finished the university, but then she was not allowed to stay in academia any longer. And this was super sad, but she actually never gave up, and she organized a lab in her own bedroom to keep doing what she's doing, to study chick embryos, nerve growth factor in this. And she managed, and she had to escape Italy for some time when it was too dangerous. She worked with the US partners, and then she also came back and founded several universities in Rome. And this was, I think this was also extremely inspiring to be such a person.
Yes, thank you so much. Unfortunately, we have to end the interview
I
here.
think I was wrapping up anyway.
Thank you so much for being here and for doing an interview with us.
Thank you for inviting me again.
When you enjoy listening to us, the best way to support us is by following us on your chosen podcast app. This could either be Google Podcast, Spotify, or Apple Podcast. Another good way to support us is by following our Instagram account, which is called kaleidoscience_pod. On our Instagram account, you will also get regular information on the next episode. Thanks a lot for supporting us. This was Kaleidoscience, hosted by Elisa Palme and Sönke Löw. Produced by Alina Ohnesorge, Elisa Palme, Sönke Löw and Sophie Kühne. Produced in collaboration with the Cognitive Science Student Journal. The music was produced by Jan-Luca Schröder. The logo was designed by Annika Richter. Thank you for listening and joining us on our journey through conversations on cognitive science.